Hello, my name is Ben.
And I'm Paul.
And we are your hosts of the Too Vague podcast this week. Paul, back again after a long hiatus.
3, 4?
I'm not sure if this is your third or your fourth.
Yeah, I know we did space, and I think we did water, I believe.
I don't think we did water.
Oh, we didn't do water.
We were going to do water.
to.
This week, we are not talking about water.
No.
By special request, we are talking about the word...
Trivia.
Trivia.
Trivia has always been a big part of my life, I'd say, from even when I was 10 years old or so up to now.
Yeah.
It's always been something my family's enjoyed.
Okay.
Something that we can bond with. Yeah, I don't know. It's always been a big part of my life. Looking forward to talking about it for the next hour or
Excellent.
so.
Yeah, very cool. It also has been a sort of a part of my life as well. Regular guest host Nora was very into trivia herself. I mean, you know, and she was very good at the Trivial Pursuit. Did you ever have the Trivial Pursuit game?
Yeah. We still have like the original one from like 1981.
Yeah. And she was really good at that one, but when it started getting into the custom, like different...
Oh, yeah.
She stopped.
Now, was she the one that would look at all the cards and memorize it?
I don't think so.
No, it was just a pure... See, because I always saw that as cheating. Some people were like, no, it's part of the game, but...
I don't think so. Yeah. I think it's a part of the game if you want to take the approach that they take on Jeopardy, where they give you all the material and you have to look through it. Is that what I thought happened? With...
Have you watched an episode, Ben?
No, I know.
No, I'm kidding.
I thought that's what... They don't want their contestants to look like idiots, so they give you the material. So
from my understanding, they don't really guide you in any way.
No,
people that prepare, there are a lot of like resources online. And you know, there's like Reddit's actually a really good one. A lot of people are active in the Jeopardy subreddit, former contestants and whatnot. Yeah, from my understanding, there isn't any, you know, cheat sheet or anything to be like, hey, this is what you should study. No official thing, but
okay.
You know, there's a lot of support group, you know, in that way.
Yeah, maybe that's different than other game shows, because that would make sense.
Right, yeah.
Interesting. Are you a fan of the Jeopardy?
Watch it every day. I'm like Rain Man.
Okay.
But no, I really do like Jeopardy. It's definitely something I'll make time for every single day. Yes.
Yeah.
And not always live, because I'm usually working during that time. Don't sue me, but I usually find like the bootleg ones on YouTube, and I'll watch there, you know, if I can't watch it live.
Yeah.
Definitely a big fan.
Have you ever wanted to maybe be on the show?
Yes, definitely a goal. I've been told that I should go on it. For me, I'm very competitive, so I would like to go on it, but if I go on it, I want to win and I want to do good. And I know, you know, it's all about having fun and going on and the experience, but I want to win.
My friend, Michaela, her husband's been on a number of game shows, including College Jeopardy when he was in college, actually.
Wow, all right.
And he has been on, I think, a couple of other shows, made some money. He was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire most recently, as of, I guess, 3 years ago. He didn't do as well as he wanted, but
sure, yeah.
He's also very active in the bar trivia community here.
Oh, cool.
The Geeks Who Drink.
Yeah, okay.
In fact, if you have been to any of them somewhat recently, you might have seen him within the last 2-3 years, but his name is Jeff. So you have aspirations to be on the show. Can you beat a computer?
No. I mean, the computer can beat Ken Jennings, who's like, you know, the Michael Jordan of Jeopardy.
Yeah,
so.
What was that? I saw that episode because I was talking about artificial intelligence with Cheyenne, and I did a little preliminary research on that because I was just interested in how it tries to figure out the answers to the questions.
Yeah.
And how it's not just looking up all the answers.
No, it like has some type of like neural network that it uses to like, you know, give a approximation of what the best guess is or whatever.
Right. And it showed you what it was, quote unquote, thinking the answer was.
Yeah.
And
it would like put question marks as well. If it really wasn't sure, or if it was more confident, it wouldn't put it.
And it sort of played the odds too, right? Where it's like sometimes it would answer something, but it didn't look like it should have.
Sure.
It should have talked about stuff. I wish it would have had a conversation with the host where you're talking with the computer. It's like, yes, I like tiddlywinks or
yeah,
whatever.
Like the little interview segment.
I was developed in a lab. Yeah, the Jeopardy IBM challenge.
Yeah, with Watson.
Watson. I was trying to remember who it was, but that's right. Watson. That was back in 2013.
Yeah, somewhere in there, like 2011, 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Here we go. You're right. Exactly. It's on IMDb.
Oh, nice.
Jeopardy, the IBM Challenge, day 1 in 2011.
I have a pretty good thing with the dates. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that a benefit for you in school? Like, do you have the kind of memory?
Yeah, definitely. I had a good friend in high school who would be annoyed at me because he would not necessarily spend a whole lot of time studying, but he would study, or, you know, other people would study for a test, and I would be the one that would just completely blow it off, just show up and then set the curve. And I'm not trying to talk myself up but it's the truth. I just would not, you know, really try. And I actually think that set up some pretty bad habits once I got into the harder stuff, like in college and whatnot.
Right.
But in high school, yeah, that could definitely do the whole, well, yeah, I'm not going to study. I'll just show up and make the best of it.
My brother did that kind of stuff too in high school. My understanding is he staggered. He didn't graduate high school with a great grade, but that's because what he did was he would just like blow off one semester.
Oh, okay.
Ace another semester, ace the final, and then, yeah, that's a C.
It does average out.
But yeah, he has the same kind of memory, and I always had to work at it. I had to make all sorts of creative associations with things in order to, I can't memorize those things super well.
It's weird how like everybody has different strengths or whatever in that way, because I would say, like, you know, as far as like making like the mnemonic devices or whatever, like that doesn't really help me.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, like I can, like if I don't think about so much about it, it almost like comes easier. Like it's like a subconscious type thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it depends, obviously. It's not like you could just say 1723 and I'm like, oh yeah, I could tell you 5 things about it.
So it's just numbers mostly? It's like numbers and dates, or is it also names? Because
it can be names as well. Yeah. I'm trying to strengthen the overall like association, I guess, skill of that, like with memory, you know, associating like a certain name even with a date or whatever. I mean, that's the whole thing with history, of course.
Right.
Or at least what most people, you know, would describe history as.
Before we get it too far into the discussion of trivia, let me get that definition out for you.
Oh yeah.
Which is provided. They don't support the program, by the way. Oxford Languages by way of Google.
Yeah.
Please give us money. No. Okay.
Accepting applications. No.
Yeah, exactly. Please fund the show.
Your ad space here.
Right.
This could be you.
Blue Apron. What? Huh? So Oxford Languages, plural noun, trivia, details, considerations, or pieces of information of little importance or value. And the etymology, not the entomology, the etymology.
Yes.
I misspelled it as entomology here, but I know the difference. Do you know the difference?
No, I know it's something, but...
Insects.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I should probably know that if I'm going to try and go on Jeopardy.
Yeah.
That was my first test. I just failed.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know.
It's a case of the podcast brain or some type of distraction.
You got so much kitty love when you came in here. It's very distracting to think about things that are trivial, I guess.
Yeah.
That's part of, okay, so we'll get into this in a second here, but from the early 20th century, from the modern Latin plural of trivium, can you imagine what that is?
Yeah, so I think, and the only reason I somewhat have a clue here is because I read Ken Jennings' book, Brainiac, where he talks a lot about trivia. One of the first chapters, he's talking about like the etymology of it. I want to say trivium is like a 3-forked road, right?
Yeah,
like
a place where three
roads fork off or whatever. Just fork off, will you? Fork off out of here.
Yeah, a place where 3 roads meet.
Okay, so yeah.
But there's also an association with trivial.
Right.
Which
things of little importance.
Right.
And he also mentions that in his book because it's like, well, that's kind of belittling of, you know, people's hobbies or whatever.
You know what? I think it's a paradoxical sort of thing where trivia is facts and figures, which can be important or unimportant.
And who's to say what is important and unimportant?
Correct. Yeah. classifying things. I don't use the word trivia, even though I can remember certain dates, certain things, certain pop culture-y sort of things that I have connections with in my brain. I guess that's trivia, but it is useful in certain circles, or it's useful in certain situations, or if you're talking to someone who's a film buff or whatever, right? It's
sure.
The value of it is not
of little importance
exactly.
or whatever.
I think that's being too vague.
Yeah.
Whoa. And we bring it full circle. And this book Ken Jennings wrote, right?
Yeah.
You know what? One more thing. Okay, sorry.
This is where the editing comes in.
Oxford Languages, they work with Google.
Right. So like
Google.
if you Google a definition, theirs will be what pops up.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know how much a Oxford English dictionary in general costs?
No.
It's a 20-volume dictionary.
Oh.
And it's in the neighborhood of $1,500 around there.
And they still sell this?
Probably not. My guess is they probably don't. They do it all online.
Yeah,
and it's a subscription-based service, I believe.
Sure.
Where you pay them $100 annually, and then you have access to their online dictionary.
It's not too bad. It's like $8 a month.
Yeah. As they say, why get the cow when you can get the milk for free?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, that has to do with the website, and it doesn't have to do with marriage. I'm just saying, why buy the cow when you can have the... I wonder where that came from. that whole phrase. It's just so crass. Anyway.
Yeah, it is a strange one.
But anyway, so yeah, with trivia and trivial, Merriam-Webster actually has in their dictionary added facts about people or events that are not well known. That is in their definition.
I think that's a little closer.
That is a little closer to what I was talking about with the paradoxic nature of the word trivia and what it really means and what it doesn't. Merriam-Webster does a lot of those things where they take words that are commonly used. It's a more of a sociological approach, right? If you talk about the word literally, which bugs the hell. This is one thing. I mean, they will include that definition that people use literally is not literally, it's figuratively,
right.
But they'll put it in the thing, right? So
right, and they use all kinds of, there's always things being added to.
Yes, yeah. It's added or changed based on how it's used.
Yeah,
and
it's actually a pretty reoccurring Jeopardy category as well. The Oxford
really?
English Dictionary.
Oxford English. Okay, well, this is Merriam-Webster does a lot of it.
I think they continue to add to it, yeah, because they always have categories about like new things that were added to the OED. Yeah.
But according to this, they don't have trivia as a fact, according to the website. It might be a smaller dictionary, but Merriam-Webster has a quizzing game involving obscure facts. But
sure.
Oxford Languages does not.
It's interesting, though, because it's like, you know, what does constitute like a well-known fact versus a little known? And you can easily change how you frame like whatever the trivia question is. Whether
it's well known or not is not the point. I think it's a fact is a fact.
Well, true, but is it a trivia? Like, you know, is it considered trivia or is that general knowledge?
I think all knowledge. You know,
like for instance, the first president of the United States. Would you consider that trivia, or is that just you should just kind of know that if you're in the country?
I consider it a fact. I mean, I don't.
Well, sure, but.
I guess for people who, like, let's say you in Japan.
Yeah.
People in Japan would probably consider that.
Well, that would definitely be trivia easily, yeah.
Right. Because it's not in there, right? Whereas people here might consider it. So it's a sort of a silly kind of thing to think of. I don't think the fact is a fact.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not trivia. But anyway, it's one of those things where it's a very gray area, what you consider trivia and what you consider not.
Right.
In general, whether or not it's well known or not is not the point. It's still a fact.
Well, yeah, and I don't think anybody's debating if it's a fact or not. Just, is it considered trivia? I don't know. I guess, like, just with that definition of, you know, it being something that's, like, little known or whatever. That's,
right.
Yeah, it just, like you said, it just depends on the audience, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, I would be more inclined, I don't know how well known this thing is, right?
Right.
So when I say something that is a fact, it is a fact. I don't consider the thing that I say trivia. I don't make that value assessment because it's not mine to make because I know it.
Right.
It's one of those things where it's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You can argue it either way.
Yeah.
So if I'm on Jeopardy, I'm not engaging in trivia questions. I'm engaging in just questions.
True. Yeah.
I don't want to belittle what you think of trivia because trivia is little known facts are cool, I think.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a conversation starter. It's something that gets people into, if you say a fact and someone didn't know that and they're interested in whatever subject it is, it can be an interesting conversation starter.
Yeah. No, I mean, and even if somebody brings up something, even if you don't know much about it, if you know a single trivia thing about it, it can, like you said, it can spark a conversation or at least make it more interesting than just, hey, have you ever heard of this? No, I haven't. Right. And then that's where it ends.
Do you think trivia nowadays, because of the internet and because you can look a lot of things up, is it a dead, well, I don't want to say dead, but I mean, it's not the same as it used to be. I guess that's a silly thing to say. It's never going to be the same, but it's a lot easier to get access to information these days, but it's also a lot easier to get disinformation these days. Yeah. Right. Do you have any instances that you think, what are your thoughts on trivia in general? Your feelings when it comes to trivia? Where did you generate your passion for trivia?
I think it's always been something that's just been like kind of exciting. And I think it's like, maybe not exciting, but like a little bit, like in the moment at least. If you're at like a movie theater waiting for the movie to start and they have the little trivia questions on the screen, right? Like it's something to do. And if you know one that nobody else knows, that's kind of like a nice little like, I don't know, a little ego boost, I guess. Like, I know more obscure stuff than you do.
Yay. Yeah,
but it's, right. I don't know. I'd be lying if I didn't say that it didn't make me feel good or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think it does make other people feel good when they know something someone else doesn't.
Sure. Yeah. Or like if somebody's, you know, oh, what was that one guy in that one movie? And you're like, oh yeah, I know who that is or whatever. It's always been that little bit of, I guess, that serotonin response.
Right. It's kind of, oh yeah, I know the answer. Then you get a little boost.
Yeah. Watching Jeopardy, if I'm watching like with my mom or a friend or whatever, if you get like 5 or 6 questions in a row or something, especially if they're ones that maybe the other person doesn't know or if they've never even heard of, it's, I don't know, it's the same thing, another little boost. And so I also really like, you know, with trivia that it can kind of steer you into subjects as well. Like you might just hear an interesting thing and be like, I want to learn more about that. Or like, I wonder why that's like that. That sounds really weird or whatever.
Right.
Obviously, I'm speaking very abstractly here, but
it can be the seed.
Exactly.
It's kind of like this show. And when I do my research, I go places that I didn't expect to go, but it's
exactly like that.
It starts with a word or it can start with a fact. Right.
Yep.
That's a very cool thing about trivia, I think.
Yeah.
You say that you guys used to play Trivial Pursuit when you were younger. Is there anything else that you think of as far as that's concerned, or is a lot of events revolve around Jeopardy or Trivial Pursuit for you?
Trivial Pursuit, I don't really play as often now. It's kind of hard to convince, you know, everyone to play that one when it's just, you know, it's mostly the game that I want to play or whatever. Like It's more, okay, well, peace, Paul. Yeah. Trivial Pursuit, I mean, it was really big in America in general. Like it wasn't.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing that I think is really interesting about trivia. It really is for everybody.
Yeah.
Trivial Pursuit itself was a huge board game in the 80s. It wasn't just your, you know, nerds or whatever that were playing it.
Right.
And similarly, actually, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was the #1 show on television between 99 and 2000.
Yeah.
Period. Not game show. Period. More Americans were watching that than, you know, any other show. So, which again, it's not just some obscure show or whatever on a game show channel or something. Like people were tuning in to see people win money.
Well, but that's the thing. There's a drama component.
Sure.
It's reality TV before reality TV. Some people tune in to see people fail, I guess.
Yeah,
too.
well, and they're everyday people, which is what's really interesting. It's not just, you know.
So I think there were some people who liked to watch it for getting the knowledge, but there are some people who like the drama aspect of it,
Sure.
possibly.
Yeah.
Probably a small segment.
Oh, I think that would definitely be a bit, part of it.
Yeah.
Because if it was the number one show, I really doubt, that many people were watching it just so they could play along or, whatever.
Right.
They were probably
Right.
watching it for the drama to see someone try and win $1 million.
Right.
It's also that little bit of escapist fantasy of, hey, maybe I could be on this show and win $1 million and all my problems would go away.
Right. Which is kind of a false equivalency.
Yeah, you probably end up with more, of course, but
with money. Yeah.
but different problems though.
A different subset. I mentioned Trivial Pursuit. Speaking of trivia about a Trivial Pursuit game, it was created in 1979 in Montreal, Quebec by Chris Haney, a photo editor for Montreal's Gazette, and Scott Abbott, who was a sports editor for the Canadian Press. This is all what's in the Wikipedia article, by the way. According to the story, they had a Scrabble game where they had a bunch of Scrabble pieces missing, so they decided to make their own game with the Scrabble pieces.
Huh.
And that is kind of where they started developing the game Trivial Pursuit, which is kind of interesting. It's like a completely different game, right?
Yeah, coming off of Scrabble.
Yeah.
Although another kind of intellectually based game in a way. Not like Chutes and Ladders or something.
Right.
So
it is sort of about knowledge because it's about the knowledge of the English language.
Oh, yeah. You
Right.
have a huge advantage if you have a bigger vocabulary.
Right.
Yeah.
Released in 1981, the rights were originally listed by Social and Writer in
See, that's trivial.
2000. Trivial. It's trivial trivia as opposed to useful trivia.
Yeah, relevant trivia, I guess.
Yeah. Telling someone that's a put down. That's trivial trivia.
Yeah.
And then Parker Brothers, later Hasbro, picked up the license after
the initial boom and everything. Yeah.
after it got really popular. Apparently, it was initially turned down by the Virgin Group.
Oh, like Richard Branson or?
Yeah, like Virgin Airlines and Virgin Records and all that.
Mm.
Interesting.
What a bunch of virgins.
Well, troglodytes, I guess.
Troglodytes, that's a funny one.
What?
I just have a funny little anecdote with that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Troglodyte.
Yeah, troglodyte. So, I try to stay up to date on like movies and whatnot. Bone Tomahawk came out in 2015. Never saw it, but I was reading like a little like discussion on it.
Uh-huh.
They talk about troglodytes in that movie, the cave people, right? The next day from reading that article, actually, no, it was the same day at work from reading that article, one of my coworkers called me a troglodyte. And I had never even heard the word before, at least not that I had retained it or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. It's just one of those funny things. It's like, see, there you go. Like,
It's something that's
you never know when stuff like that is going to like come
useful.
up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. At least I knew what the reference they were making or whatever. Yeah.
Right. I have a story about Trivial Pursuit myself. I mentioned, I think, briefly, Nora was a big fan of Trivial Pursuit back when it came out, and she was very good at it. One time we were playing Trivial Pursuit with the group when we go over there for holiday meals, right? And then you have your ballot, and then you play a game afterwards. It was one of two. It was either Pictionary, which came out later, or Trivial Pursuit. Categories. I don't know.
Another fun one. Yeah.
Yeah. We were playing, all of us, 6 people. I guess that's the maximum you can have playing the game. Her husband, Tom, was kind of I don't want to say crotchety kind of guy, but he didn't like kids. And at the time we were kids. To him,
So he didn't like you.
Probably didn't like us. No. Yeah, we were very kid-like. It didn't seem like he liked kids. He would give us shit all the time, right? Being like,
like if you didn't know or whatever.
In general, not just in trivia, he would give us shit about other stuff. But
okay.
So he was reading one of the questions, and I don't remember the exact question, but I do remember the fact that he said the word epitome instead of epitome when he was reading the question. And Adam and I were on that immediately.
Never let it go.
Oh, man. It was like, epitome? Do you mean epitome? We had sort of a common understanding from that point forward, and I don't know if it was perceived that he kind of warmed up to us that day, but that's what it seemed like. But anyway,
he's like, hey, these kids know some stuff.
They can
teach me something.
Yeah, they can give me, they can give it back. Maybe I should not. They're adults. And he was a really smart guy too, actually. And that's the thing about trivia and knowledge that's interesting. You can be knowledgeable on a variety of subjects. So making a value judgment on someone based on what they don't know, it's kind of sad that people do that.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway.
No, I mean, everybody knows, like you said, they have their areas of, expertise. And
right.
I mean, I got to be honest, when I'm watching Jeopardy and there's a category I'm good at and I can, answer them easily, and then there's, a question where all three of them, nobody knows the answer, I'll be sitting there on my couch with my mouth wide open, like, really? But then there'll be like a run of 5 or 6 other ones where I have no clue, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's waiting for Godot." Yeah,
yeah, waiting for Godot. I remember having to read that monstrosity. But anyway, all I remember is throwing up in turnips. Is that Waiting for Godot? So you mentioned that you read Ken Jennings' book. Ken Jennings, if you don't know, is Jeopardy champion, one of the most, if not the most recognizable Jeopardy champion ever. Is it because he has most consecutive wins? What is?
Yeah, he has most consecutive wins. He won 74 games in a row back in 2005.
Okay. Part of him doing that, is that kind of what got you into trivia too? Maybe seeing a little bit of that, or got you into Jeopardy?
Actually, no. So Ken was before I started watching. I would say I started watching more like in middle school, high school, so maybe like 13 or so.
Okay.
That would be a couple of years after when Ken was on. I always knew about Ken even before I watched the show, which I think I don't know if I just heard it on the news or something, but like the name Ken Jennings, I was like, oh yeah, it's the Jeopardy guy.
Right.
That was before I even watched the show. So, I mean, he was definitely a bit of a celebrity in a way.
Right. But it is trivia for some people.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to go back to this whole something is trivia, but but anyway. So Ken Jennings, how did you get turned on to his book? Was it the fact that you had watched Jeopardy and you were kind of interested in what kind of made this Jeopardy celebrity tick?
He's always been a very interesting figure, if only just for that. Yeah, the fact that he won 74 games, over $3 million. It's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And he's also done other tournaments since that original run.
Tournaments, you mean Jeopardy?
For Jeopardy, yeah. So
not like he's not been on other game shows or anything.
I've seen him on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, which was pretty funny because you could tell they wanted him to pad up on like the questions as much as possible to kind of like make it seem like he was really thinking about what the answer was. Because, this guy knows so much. You watch him on Jeopardy, it's like less than a second he's bringing in.
Right.
And then you watch him on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, and he's, the capital of Wisconsin, I think it's Madison, but I don't know, and it's like, okay, come on.
Just, yeah. Some of those shows, and that's like with that, and also Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
The reality aspect,
yeah,
right? The drama.
Yeah, I don't like that in part of it. I think Jeopardy, you cut all that nonsense out.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you just do the question, you write it down, whether or not you know it.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's what makes it great. And especially like, if you're watching the bootleg Jeopardy on YouTube, it's less than 20 minutes. It's like 19 minutes. You get in and out, 61 questions in total, and you're done.
Yeah.
And I really like that because even watching like Celebrity Jeopardy, I can't get through it. And I want to because I love Jeopardy, but I'll watch Celebrity Jeopardy. I'm like, this is awful. Like beyond just the questions being, lower difficulty or whatever, that's fine. I don't really mind that, but just, I guess, the overall flow and extra talking and whatnot here and there, because, they try to make it more about the personalities and less about the game, so, which is fair, but different audience.
Yeah. Different. Yeah. You're catering to a different
the general public. Yeah. Like, hey, I know Ray Romano. I'm going to watch him.
No. Hey.
Oh, I forgot to put it in a question. Apparently that's what he sounds like. I don't know.
My buddy, Ryan, who's been on the show before on the word comic, he does an impression of me that sounds just like Ray Romano. And I'm like, that doesn't sound anything like me. I don't sound, dude. Maybe that sounds like Ray Romano. Does that sound like Ray Romano? I don't know. Dude, whatever. Oh, yeah. I don't think it sounds like Ray Romano. But so you want to weigh in on the Mayim Bialik? That's her name, right? Mayim Bialik?
Yeah.
And Ken Jennings as the host sort of debate?
Sure. I mean, personally, I'm all aboard Team Ken. You know, she's done good. I just don't think, it shows that she doesn't come from the Jeopardy background.
Right.
And, to be fair, Alex Trebek didn't come from a Jeopardy background. He was just, run-of-the-mill, no offense to him, but a run-of-the-mill game show host like before that.
Right.
And
I think that's what you want.
Right. Because you have that showmanship and the naturally, charismatic, whatever, know. Whereas, like Ken is definitely more of like an average guy, whatever, however you want to say it. Like he doesn't have that like showmanship as much,
right. He's not a host.
Right. At least not originally, but like he's really grown into it, I think. And even from the start, he just has such a good feel for the game, having been on so much.
Right.
And he actually was very close with Alex too. He actually, I know, like was on the phone with Alex a few days before he passed.
Yeah.
And Alex's family like gifted Ken his like cufflinks so Ken could wear them on the show when he was guest hosting.
Right.
To me, he just seems like the natural, like he should be the host to me.
Yeah. It seems like that's the difference between Trebek's decision on who the host should be versus the people who put the show out.
Well, and there was a lot of drama after Alex passed. They went through a whole bunch of different guest hosts, and they actually had the executive producer at that time. After having all these guest hosts trying to figure out, who was going to be the next host, he actually was like, "I'm going to be the next host." This is Mike Richards.
Okay.
Yeah. He had just become the executive producer literally like a year before Alex passed. So it's not like he was a big time part of the show for a long time.
Right.
Kind of just like came in, and to me kind of always gave that sort of fake, like used car salesman type of energy.
Yeah.
Which kind of works for game shows.
Right. But not Jeopardy where it's a no nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. And like it just really rubbed me the wrong way that like we went through like a year of revolving hosts just for him to be like, surprise, it's me. I'm the best one for the job. Funny enough, since we're doing a podcast, I should watch what I'm saying because he ended up getting fired because he had made some like lewd comments on one of his old podcasts. Yeah, and everyone came out after him, which I was fully supportive because I didn't really like him to begin with.
Right.
But yeah, it was a little overreactionary, I think. Maybe I shouldn't say that. We'll just cut that out. But
as far as taking something that is historical, I mean, if it was like yesterday you did your podcast, or if it was like 10 years ago you did your podcast.
Yeah.
I think firing someone for doing a podcast 10 years ago where they said something stupid, basically you're saying that people can't grow and people can't change.
And I get that part of it, but like as I was saying it, when I was like, maybe I shouldn't say that, it's because I think he made the comments about a coworker who was working underneath him at a game show. And so it was like, it was kind of slimy. Yeah. It was more than just like, oh, he said, some word 10 years ago or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that I would be like, yeah, sure. Like, I recognize now that's wrong. I shouldn't have done that. But something like that, he should have always known,
Right.
Yeah. So
there's a judgment there. Yeah, interesting.
Going back to Mayim and Ken, Mayim is a real good host. I think she has really grown compared to Ken. I think Ken actually started better than she did.
Yeah.
She was doing like a lot of extra comments and stuff that I know people weren't really fans of, just going off of the online community.
Right.
But I think she probably took the feedback and whatnot, and she's done a pretty good job.
So is it a shared thing now?
It is, at least for the next, year or two, I think.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they both have their benefits, and why not keep it fresh? I mean,
yeah.
It doesn't have to be one host. It can be two different hosts with two different approaches. And
sure, yeah.
That keeps things fresh, I think.
I really think that Mayim does a great job, even though I kind of, docked on Celebrity Jeopardy earlier. I think she does a good job with Celebrity Jeopardy. She does have that rapport more with the celebrities compared to, like if Ken was hosting it.
Yeah.
Likewise, I think Ken vibes a little bit better with the, the brainy, smarty people that go on the show. Like,
right.
Multiple hosts, maybe for different things. Like right now, they're both kind of just doing both, like doing regular Jeopardy, and then Mayim's also doing like celebrity and whatnot.
Yeah.
At least this season, it's only been Ken, but I know she's going to be taking over pretty soon. But anyway, yeah, they're both doing it right now.
Okay. Not taking over really soon because there's not any controversial Ken stuff going on, is there?
Well, Ken does have a podcast, and,
Yeah.
I know there were some controversies with that podcast, but that was more with his co-host. But even that was just silly, overblown stuff.
Yeah.
That's a great podcast, actually. I want to plug that. Omnibus. Check it out. Yeah.
Omnibus? Okay.
Yeah, Ken Jennings, John Roderick.
If I ever had aspirations to be a game show host, maybe I should terminate the podcast, but I don't.
Yeah.
So you said you read Ken Jennings' book.
Yes.
We were talking about this offline. In that book, he mentioned NTN trivia, which is something that I used to engage in a lot when I was hanging out at TGI Fridays back in the day.
Does, yeah.
Yeah. That was kind of, I used to play trivia, and it was a comfort to me to go there and get to know the people who were the bartenders. But I mean, part of that and enjoying that whole thing, half-price appetizers and playing trivia was kind of my thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is a little bit of trivia that's going to be useless. It's going to be trivial trivia.
Trivial trivia.
Yeah. My handle was always Splam11. Splam11. Don't ask me why. It was just kind of Splam11.
It's provocative.
It was after that whole slam, let the boys be boys, that song. No. Anyway.
Blank stare.
So what was said about NTN trivia?
He just mentioned that it was, it had been a pretty big thing, like through the 2000s, and then kind of dropped off a little bit to where by the time he was writing the book, he was the only one in the bar that was even playing. And like when he told the waitress, I wanted to play NTN, they like almost didn't know what he was talking about.
Right.
Because at that point it was just like such an antiquity. But
I think it's Buzz Time now, NTN Buzz Time.
Oh, okay. I've never done it myself. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, now it's Buzz Time is the website.
Oh, okay.
Apparently it's still around, but very small locations. I have seen it in Buffalo Wild Wings.
Ooh.
I think the one over, I don't know.
Yeah.
But in Tucson, there is a Buffalo Wild Wings that I know that I've seen has it. It's one of the larger Buffalo Wild Wings places, but I've seen the trivia, the Buzz Time trivia, and it's pretty much the same as
NTN
the same company. Company as NTN Network was started in 1985, and they would broadcast trivia and other games by way of broadband to over 3,800 bars at the time and restaurants. And I know that TGI Fridays was one of those big, they probably sold them on the idea of having these machines in all of their places. And what I would do, even when I would visit place that I wasn't familiar with, go to TGI Fridays and play some NTN, NTN trivia. You also mentioned the fact that he was kind of a normal guy. Right?
Yeah.
Got together with a bunch of normal people and played trivia.
Yeah.
They had themed sort of things, and there was a local DJ named Shannon Black, who's still around. You can look her up, but she's doing other things. I think she may be a newscaster or something these days. At the time, she worked at a country music station. Every weekend, she would go to TGI Fridays. She'd play NTN trivia, and we would play the music trivia thing. And I was kind of her nemesis, I guess. She was probably being nice, but one of the people who would always play against her and kick her ass if it was anything having to do with 80s. I would clean house. 80s trivia. Any 80s trivia. That's it.
Yeah.
80s trivia. I remember also doing a perfect on one game, but it was a video games trivia thing.
Oh, yeah.
Too. But that was also back in 1997, 98. Yeah. But
that's always funny when you get one that like a category that you're like, you just know.
Just like,
and see, like with Jeopardy, mine, okay, so before I like really got into learning more of the academic stuff, I would always be holding out for the sports categories. I'd be like, whenever they'd be like, NFL team stadiums or something comes up as a category, I'd be like, yes, I'm going to nail that one, right?
Right.
Except for most of the time, the people would just completely ignore the sports category because they're like, I don't know anything about sports. Right. And then they would get to the end of the round. There'd be like 30 seconds left. They get through like maybe one or two clues and be like, oh no, that's all we have time for. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the point of that was, but just,
just kind of an aside.
Yeah, just an aside about the frustrations of sports Jeopardy, which actually is a thing as well. But
they have themed,
like sport. Yeah, and this is something they had back in the day, back in the day as in like 2010, but they're actually thinking about bringing it back as like a sports Jeopardy and possibly a pop culture Jeopardy, which originally I was against, right? It should all just be in one thing.
Yeah.
You don't want to dilute it too much.
I think that's the problem.
But I do think pop culture one does have a little bit of appeal because of because like your general person that maybe just really likes watching movies and TV, they're not going to give a shit who was king of England in like 1600 something, right? Like there's no appeal in watching regular Jeopardy for them. Because that's how they see it. It's just a whole bunch of boring old stuff. Not saying that's the truth.
I think it's making an assumption. There are people out there who like to learn stuff, and maybe they want to see regular Jeopardy because they're learning things as opposed to doing categories where they know their shit.
No, for sure. But those people probably already watch Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Because they like to learn stuff, But this would be reaching those people that really do just glue their eyes to the TV and watch a whole bunch of random stuff.
My instinct is no, it's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
It is basically the downfall of using the Trivial Pursuit name.
Sure.
I think that's an illustration. They tried too many things, too many different versions, and then it got to a point where it's like, no.
And realistically, I don't think it would work.
Yeah.
Like, because even when they had Sports Jeopardy, and that was my category, right? I barely watched Sports Jeopardy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a cool show, but it's just, it's over saturation, just too much of stuff. So,
and I think we're going to talk about this in our video game segment, but I think something like Jackbox and the people who make that, they kind of the one game that they did over and over again got to a point where the diversification wasn't necessarily in subject matter, it was types of games.
Yeah.
And as people got more and more, having game nights, I mean, I think that was one of the things that kind of when trivia declined, people were starting to have game nights. And then that kind of got to a point where it reached a critical mass. I think still people have game nights for fun.
Oh, yeah.
But then now trivia has started to
come back
again.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
well, even, I was just at a game night pretty recently with some friends, and these aren't necessarily like you say about making assumptions. They're not necessarily people I would picture as, oh, let's sit down and watch Jeopardy people.
Mm-hmm.
But break out Jackbox and you're playing the murder trivia game.
Right.
All of a sudden, everyone's into it. Right. So, yeah. I think a big part of it is just how it's dressed up, I guess. Like some people just don't really want to watch Jeopardy. That's fine.
Right.
But, they might enjoy popping open a Snapple and reading a little trivia fact or something, or, watching college football. And they're like, can you name, the last SEC team to lose a game ever? And, or whatever.
You're like, nope. Throw away the Snapple cap.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I think there is that universal appeal. It's just finding what type of trivia you like, I guess.
I think there's a reason they don't put trivia questions in fortune cookies, and that's the reason. People don't give a shit. Sometimes, well, I don't know. That's a generalization, but
I mean, do people give a shit about the fortunes?
I think people. Well,
see, again,
I do.
Some do, some don't, right? So not everyone's the same.
Well, this is my favorite thing to say, like you open the cookie and you read the fortunes around. And what I say is I look at mine and I go, help, I am trapped in a fortune cookie making factory. That's what mine says.
That's a good one. Yeah.
It's me being silly. Yeah, maybe we just switch over to video games.
Sure.
So are there any video games that you play that have to do with trivia? I mean, did you get into the whole trivia crack?
I mean, yeah, I was doing trivia crack for a little bit.
Say no to drugs. Anyway.
Yeah, just trivia crack. I think my thing with trivia crack was just like the inconsistency on the difficulty of questions, which it may not always be a deal breaker for people, the difficulty of questions, but
right.
But for me, it was
you want challenge.
Right. And some of them would be a good challenge. And some of them would just be like, here's a picture of George Washington. Who is this? There has to be a certain level of difficulty for me to want to do it. Obviously, I don't want all of them to be ones I know, or all of them to be like, oh, I have no idea. There's that, magic middle ground. But, Trivia Crack, it was okay for a bit. I would say I'm not so much in, I don't know if you would put this even in your video game section. I'm not really in a video game for trivia, but I'm in like an online league for trivia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Actually run by Alex Jacob, who was on Jeopardy and won a whole bunch of money on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's not Ken Jennings, but he's...
No, yeah, but he's another, he's a pretty, like, at least in the Jeopardy verse, he's a pretty well-known, pretty well-known name.
Worst movies ever in the Jeopardy verse. But anyway.
The Jeopardy cinematic universe.
Yeah. It's not the MCU, it's the JCU. But anyway, go ahead.
So I'm in that, I don't know, there's a few hundred people that are in there, and a good chunk of them actually have been on Jeopardy. So that's kind of cool. You'll see like a name that's in your, in your league or whatever is on the actual show.
Mm.
So that's always pretty neat. And also, I was going to tie this in on one of our last shows. We were talking about Fantastic Voyage.
Oh yeah.
And you showed me the trailer for Fantastic Voyage. Well, in this league that I'm in, you get 5 questions every business day, right? And one of the questions had to do with this 1966 sci-fi movie where these scientists or doctors, shrink down in size and go inside another scientist. And I was like, wouldn't you know it? It's Fantastic Voyage.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. And see, like, you just never know, but
yeah,
where it'll come up again or whatever. But
exactly.
Yeah,
I think making a value judgment about facts in general is not a good idea.
Yeah, it's just silly. It's silly to say, oh, this matters and this doesn't.
Yeah.
Like what you like you said, they're all facts. So
right.
Who cares?
Exactly. Like when they did Trivia Crack, I don't think basing a game and giving Crack a good name is a good idea. I don't know if that's the reason why Trivia Crack, because it's addictive kind of thing, but
I think that's what they were going for.
Do you think that's so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, there was an oxymoron because then there's Trivia Crack too. But, if Trivia Crack was truly crack, do you really need the sequel?
The sequel to Crack is probably they put some
like
extra
crystal meth.
Yeah, put something else in there.
Trivia meth. That's gonna be my new app.
Yeah, Trivia Coke was taken.
You have half a second to answer.
I think a company that did it right, the Jackbox.
Oh
folks,
yeah, Jackbox. Yes.
Originally, they were started as Jellyvision in Chicago, Illinois. Woohoo! They started. If you're familiar with any kind of pinball machines, you might recognize the name Gottleib because Gottleib makes pinball machines, and I believe it's the same family.
See, I'll be storing that away for later. You never know.
Gottleib
pinball.
Yep. The Jackbox Party Pack series started becoming popular and all these different games on it. And I think one of the great things that they kind of started to do back when they came out, when I started playing You Don't Know Jack, it was in the age of the CD-ROM, and that is early 90s, like around there. Playing that game was so much fun, and playing with the host who was, putting you down because you didn't know whatever. It was kind of the part of the appeal, I guess. Yeah. It was a silly game show feeling, but it was fun. Did you ever play You Don't Know Jack back in the day?
No.
So Jellyvision produced various installments of You Don't Know Jack from 1995 through 98. And then it kind of dropped off for a little while because of the way the games market sort of shifted away from computer games into console stuff and the Nintendo and things. So they disappeared for a while. But then the whole opportunity for networked stuff back in 2008, that's when the Jellyvision games relaunched as, well, they relaunched a subsidiary company called the Jellyvision Lab. That studio was led by Mike Builder, and they released You Don't Know Jack on iOS, a console version, and a Facebook version. In the end of 2011 is when Jellyvision Games was spun off into Jackbox Games. Jellyvision Labs remained, but focused on developing business software inspired by You Don't Know Jack's voice-driven interface. So business, so that is kind of an interesting sort of, I'm not entirely sure what the business software was, but they developed a version called Alex, which is an interactive conversation that helped employees choose their benefits and their benefits package.
Oh, okay.
It was successful, and Jellyvision sort of grew as of 2019, the company's primary business focus, interactive HSA products, financial guidance. So anyway, that's interesting that in its infancy, it started out being a trivia and fun games, and it kind of developed into business.
Yeah.
A business
That's
application.
quite the pivot.
Yeah, that was why they were spun off into two different companies. You had your Jackbox, which started gaining a lot of traction as far as when they started developing all these other games as a part of the package. And I think Jackbox Games now, they're on Jackbox Games 8.
Yeah.
But have you played any of these Jackbox party trivia packages?
Well, yeah, I played that murder mystery one. It's like, yeah.
Do you like playing the trivia one?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's
don't
like
know Jack.
Yeah.
I mean, just sticking to that as opposed to these other party games that kind of involve you in different sort of things. Like there's the ones where you draw and then you kind of
Oh no,
vote.
those are really fun too, for sure. Yeah. You have a few drinks with your friends or whatever and draw some dumb stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of deviated from my own thought here. But when You Don't Know Jack came out, there was a game, and I think I mentioned this on our acronym show, called Acrophobia, which is not the fear of acronyms, but that's what they called it. Acrophobia actually means something. What does acrophobia mean? Acrophobia is fear of heights.
Oh.
Extreme or an irrational fear of heights. So that's acrophobia. Which has nothing to do with acronyms. But anyway.
Or agrophobia, a fear of crops.
Ah.
I'm assuming, I don't know, agriculture, I don't know.
No, that's not to be confused with agoraphobia. You need to develop a phobia-based trivia game.
Yeah.
Maybe. Fear of aggression. It could also be that too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you said you played one recently.
The murder mystery trivia.
What was the murder mystery trivia game like?
You had different rounds or whatever, and based on how you did in a given round, you might be killed, quote unquote. And then you become like a ghost and you're trying to retake the lead with your trivia points.
Okay.
You know, so that you can become alive again. And and if you drop out of the lead or whatever, then you become a ghost.
Okay.
And you start off like everybody's alive, and then each round one person drops out and becomes like one of the ghosts or whatever. And so eventually there's only one living person, and that person
it's
wins.
the last man standing,
right?
Kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and they got two versions of it. Looks like.
Oh, okay.
Well, they got a sequel 1 and 2, probably a part of 2 different Jackbox party packs. I think a good thing, it's not just trivia.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And what Jackbox has going for it, like I said, there was the acrophobia game, which is the fear of acronyms, where it was played in a chat room. And this was a little bit, it was IRC, Internet Relay Chat, part AOL, hanging out with people, just chatting, and part game. And the game is an initialism would appear on the screen, and then you would come up with, based on those initials, what it was.
Oh, like what it stood for. Yeah. Okay.
And then it's an initialism, right? Initialism is when you just say the letters, and acronym is when you pronounce it.
Yeah, I think most people just conflate it into everything's an acronym, but I think that is the actual, yes.
So it puts an initialism on there, and then each person in the chat room comes up with what they think it is. It gives you kind of a theme on what was supposed to be, and then the entire chat room votes on which one's the best.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now, this is a formula that they use on a lot of their other games.
Yes.
But originally, the game Acrophobia was designed by Andrea Schubert, programmed by Kendrick Mock and Michelle Hayes in 1995. I remember it coming with a You Don't Know Jack game as kind of a extra disc. And it was so much fun playing that game online with people. And now it's like that's pretty much part of the basic formula for a lot of the Jackbox stuff.
Yeah.
So you like those games in addition to just
Sure,
the trivia
yeah.
part?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest, I'm always secretly pulling for us to play the trivia game when it's like, all right, which one are we going to do? But I never am like, oh, let's do the trivia one. Because I know that's, I'm that guy. So I'm like, yeah, whichever one you guys want to do.
Yeah.
And deep down, I'm like, come on, trivia.
There's Fibbage. Do you ever play Fibbage?
I haven't played Fibbage, no.
Where you are presented with an obscure fact with a missing word or phrase. Each player secretly provides an answer to the missing phrase, trying to craft an answer that appears legitimate. If the player enters the correct answer, they're told of this and are encouraged to enter a false answer. It's one of those things where it's also played in a chat room.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if this party game that you played, did it have the phone interface that they were using?
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
It is so amazing that you can do it that way.
Yeah. The first time I played with them, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Because, we were all in the same room or whatever. And it's like, you got your own little handheld game and then you can play along on the TV.
Right. Right.
Great.
Yeah. My cousin and her now husband were in town. They lived here for a little while. He is a nurse. He basically works at a site, and we need a nurse to fill in. So they call him, and he works there for a contracted amount of time.
Sure, yeah. He's like a mercenary. Mercenary nurse. The Merc nurse.
Mercenaries.
How to make your job sound cooler than it is.
Mercenaries. He's probably listening to the show, too. Anyway.
Hey, all the respect.
Yes. A mercenary for hire, a nurse.
Yeah, the Merc nurse.
And this was right around the time that the COVID pandemic was happening, too. So, but before they moved to a different state because Chandra was going into her chosen profession, which was veterinary medicine. And she had sort of an internship with a place, and she went and worked there for a little while. I don't know if it was an internship or just a job, but it was like her first job. So he kind of, since he could do this, he can pick up and move whenever he needs to. He just consults with them and he gets the gigs that he can get. When they were out here, we I brought it over on the iPads and we played different games. 3 people is not enough people.
It's not, sadly. Yeah.
But yeah, and there's so many creative games that they come up with. There's one where it's like it gives you like statistical figures, and there's a sort of an audience participation element where each person can vote, but they don't have to be active players. And then there's a lot of drawing stuff that you can do with the handheld with your phone.
The ones where the drawings face off against each other.
Yeah.
And you have to vote on whose is better. That I really enjoy that one.
I have a t-shirt that was designed because of that.
Because of one of those drawings.
Yeah. It was TKO. That's what it was. I knew it was a clever thing, but it was like T spells it as in TEE, TKO. Basically, you would come up with the different t-shirts based on the designs. But one of the cool things is each shirt, as your design, because of the way it works through the interface, you can buy a t-shirt.
And they'll make it and send it to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's genius inclusion.
That is so awesome. Yeah. And I was participating in that game as a part of, I mention the show all the time, but I love the show, What's Good Games. Women in the industry, in the video game industry, in different parts of the industry, and they have a show. Video game news, commentary, and funny stuff is what they... But anyway, during one of their streams for like an anniversary or whatever, they were playing a bunch of Jackbox games. Someone drew a picture of a post, and, one of the TKO things is you have to develop a caption for someone else's drawing or whatever.
Right.
And the caption was something to the effect of, why have you done this? Or what have you done here? Or whatever. But it was just kind of funny, a funny drawing picture of her. And only people who were in that stream know it. I mean, it's a very obscure, it's like no one knows that reference. It's a trivial reference. Very trivial.
Yeah.
And very point specific. All the different things that it's on, and coming out with a new Jackbox party pack. They've got to make some serious sales on that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a fun game that includes everyone, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is you need enough people. So, but anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely the downside. We don't have enough at my house. to play that.
Yeah.
It would have to be like a special occasion, people over kind of thing. But
I think it gained popularity during the pandemic just because you could play that stuff by way of
online, and then using like Discord or something. Yeah, we did that multiple times.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Do you want to wrap up trivia?
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
Put a bow on it.
Yeah, trivia.
What are your closing thoughts on the word trivia?
I love it. I think anybody can love it. Not that they do, but you could. Learning new things. It's a great way to kind of put you in any kind of direction, I guess. Learn about something you don't know.
Right.
Maybe it's art. Maybe it's opera or Shakespeare or whatever.
Podcasting. Hey, great trivia podcast, actually. Complete the List. Okay.
Yeah, Andy Saunders, big Jeopardy fan. He does that one. Actually would want to be on that sometime. But yeah, Complete the List. Another good one.
Okay. Do you have any other podcasts
any
that you want?
Shout outs?
Yeah, that you want to divert our listening audience
I know.
to?
Yeah, everybody stop listening to Ben's show and come listen to these. So first of all, no.
Hey, no.
No, I don't think I have any others. I did want to shout his out though, because that one is one I will listen to like driving to work and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, and it fits the show. So yeah, Complete the List. Yeah.
My last thing is trivia. What is it? It's just facts. So
deal with it.
No, I mean, I don't know. Trivia is facts, and you never know when your knowledge can be useful, and it's fun to learn new stuff. So, that's just basically think of trivia as an opportunity to learn stuff.
Yep. An excuse to learn something even.
Maybe even that, because you've got a game, it gamifies learning in such a way that makes it fun and interesting.
Sure.
Yeah. And
who knows what thing you may never have been interested in.
Right.
You look it up through trivia and all of a sudden that's an interest for you.
Yeah.
For me, that was art. Actually, I know you're going to be doing this on one of your upcoming shows. I was one of those that never cared about art ever. And, it's a big part of trivia, Jeopardy, whatever. So I had to learn something.
Yeah.
And, just looking at different paintings, reading about when they came out, the history behind them, I was like, you know what? I kind of like this.
Yeah.
And so you just never know what could interest you. So,
and also to kind of complete that sort of thought, you pointed out, I have one of my favorite artists is Edward Hopper, and you pointed out the book.
Yep.
And you knew the Nighthawks, which is, a print that I have in my bedroom. And it's like conversation starter. You never know when it's going to be something where it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. You can start a conversation based on all these little facts.
Exactly. You just never know when something like that's going to come up and who it'll help you connect with.
Yep, exactly. Trivia as a connection. Let's disconnect. Thank you, Paul, for joining us on this week's episode. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben. It's been a lot of fun.
On that note, thank you for joining us on this week's podcast. My name is Ben.
And I'm still Paul.
And we've been your hosts. Thank you. Have a great night. Bye.
Bye.